Welcome in to News and Views with Tom Lamprecht. The stories you've heard and the ones you need to hear.
This is about hungry babies.
Move formula from overseas to the United States.
It will be a few weeks before we're back to normal.
We're going to protect life in Oklahoma.
A ban that would outlaw abortion from the moment of fertilization.
Aid for Ukraine, $40 billion.
Exorbitantly high gas prices.
National average.
All-time high.
Wonderful to be back in the Republic of Korea.
Your life, your values, your voice. This is News and Views with Tom Lamprecht on Talk 96.3 and 103.7.
All right, welcome in. It is News and Views for a Friday. I got a good program lined up for you. We're going to speak to John Bell later in the program as the short session of the General Assembly got underway this week. Gets underway really full throttle next week as they start taking votes. Lots to talk about today. The Biden administration has placed an order for a $119 million order for vaccines after one case of monkeypox was reported in the United States. The Biden administration has placed an order for millions of doses of vaccines intended to protect against smallpox and monkeypox. Is this COVID 2.0? I mean, COVID worked in the 2020 election. Is this, are we getting ready for the 2022 shutdown? I don't know. I think it's worth asking, why now? Obviously, the Democrats have nothing to cheer about when it comes to their election prospects. So is this COVID 2.0, election shutdown? Is this going to be another excuse to do whatever you want to do in the upcoming election? I'm going out on a limb here, but you never know. The Epoch Times is reporting a bunch of North Carolina physicians demand an end to a hospital's COVID-19 vaccine trial on children. A group of North Carolina physicians is calling for a halt to a hospital system's COVID-19 vaccine trial on young children. The North Carolina Physicians for Freedom is demanding that the Atrium Health Levine Children's Hospital in Charlotte, North Carolina, cease its Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine testing on children ages 6 months to 5 years old. Not only is this completely unnecessary, but it is also toxic, said co-founder Deanna Lightfoot. According to the group's press release, healthy children, teenagers, young adults are at minimum risks of severe complications or death from COVID-19. Great point. I mean, we have now seen a lot of data come out just in the last month talking about the fact that, you know, if you were a child 12 or under, the chances of you dying from COVID or even getting severely ill from COVID was so rare. You probably stood a better chance of getting injured or killed on the way to get your vaccination shot than you did the chances of actually dying from COVID itself. And yet we're gonna inject these kids 6 months old and use them as our guinea pigs? Are you kidding me? News and Observer's reporting 2 days after U.S. Representative Madison Cawthorn lost his re-election campaign, he called on political movement to put a more vengeful Donald Trump back in power and seek revenge on his enemies. Now, again, this is going to be slanted. This is coming from the News and Observer. He said, and this was a quote out of one of the social medias in which he was writing, I think it was his Instagram. He said, "It's time for the rise of the new right. It's time for dark MAGA to truly take command. We have to defeat an enemy, but we will never be able to defeat them until we defeat the cowardly and weak members of our own party. Their days are numbered. We are coming." Cawthorn lost to Chuck Edwards in last Tuesday's primary election. He returned to Twitter the next day saying the best is yet to come. He added on Instagram, "When the establishment turned their guns on me, when the Uniparty consolidated to defeat an American First member, very few people had my back," Cawthorn wrote. It's time for genteel politics as usual to come to an end, he said. Madison, I concede that there are rhinos in our midst, and I think it's pretty obvious when you look at their voting record who they are and who they're not. But sorry to pull rank on you here, Madison, but young man, you have no one to blame but yourself. You are your own worst enemy. You apparently thought you were above the law, speeding, driving with a revoked license, making false accusations about drug parties and orgies, immoral videos of yourself. And look, you can say, oh, that video was taken a long time ago. That was. You're only 26 years old. It couldn't have possibly taken a long time ago. And look, I realize somebody else got the video and posted it on social media. But you were there when the video was taken. You attempted to board a plane with a handgun. I think it was twice, not once, but twice. And I'm sorry, filing for divorce after 8 months of marriage, and you don't think that's going to have a political ramification on you? You have no one to blame but yourself, Madison. And quite frankly, we do not need conservatives that come across as people that are totally irresponsible. Were there establishment Republicans that wanted to say goodbye to you? Yeah. But you know what? There are a lot of conservative Republicans that wanted to say goodbye to you because you're an embarrassment. Enough said. A letter from the National Tax Reform Group, Grover Cleveland's Americans for Tax Reform, sent to the Republican legislature of North Carolina, basically saying, hey, guys, you're doing a great job. He would like to see tax rates drop more this year, or over the next couple of years. I mean, we're continuing to drop, but he would like to see that sped up. Eventually, by 2027, the tax rate will hit 3.99%. Basically, we are competing with states that have no income tax. However, you got to realize that those states that have no income tax have a much higher sales tax or much higher property tax. But nonetheless, he gives kudos to North Carolinian legislators, saying that not only are you doing a good job in North Carolina, but you're also a good example to other states that ought to follow in your footsteps. What's interesting, there was a surplus, and we're going to talk to John Bell about this as well. There's a surplus of some $6 billion in the coffers of North Carolina. That's what it's projected to be. And yet they're lowering taxes. Isn't that interesting? Of course, they're also being responsible in how they spend the revenues that they have. And we need to continue to do that. It's not just how much you bring in, it's how much you put out. If only Washington, D.C. could learn that lesson. Joe Biden is more and more being engulfed in a national energy crisis. He has basically decided to, he said in his campaign he was going to kill energy. He was going to kill fossil fuels. And apparently that's the direction he continues to go in. Yesterday, Senate Energy and Natural Resources Committee Chair Joe Manchin caught Biden's Secretary of Interior, Deb Haaland, dead to rights on the agenda to kill everything regarding oil and gas exploration. It occurred during a budget hearing. This is Cut 1, Clark. Manchin whipped out the Department of Interior's own documents highlighting their intention to kill the whole show. Haaland was left speechless.
If I may, real quickly, Secretary Haaland, I don't know, you all just put out a statement. The U.S. Department of Interior just put out a statement. And the statement basically says a proposed program is not a decision to issue specific leases or to authorize any drilling or development. This is from y'all's office. So it looks like you are on to shut everything down. Did you know you all put this out?
I am sorry. I am sitting in this hearing and not.
My God, somebody, it shuts it down. It shows what your intent is.
This is the Secretary of Interior. This is the head honcho. And she sits there like a deer in the headlights. I'm in this hearing. So in other words, you're either clueless or you're lying. You have no idea what your own department is putting out in terms of, you know what, hey. Now the Biden administration is complaining that it's the oil company's fault because they're not jumping in there and using these wells that they have the leases on, the options on. Well, it costs money to do that, Joe. But apparently you're lying because it's now come out that the Department of Interior just saying, no more leases. No more leases. Unbelievable. Hey, we got to take a time out. Stay with us. When we get back, we'll be joined by Representative John Bell. We'll talk about what's going to happen in the short session up in Raleigh, which has gotten underway this week. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Go to Greenville Toyota, where inventory is on the move, with truckloads of vehicles arriving daily. Shop over 200 incoming new certified and pre-owned vehicles. Plus, we'll buy your vehicle, sell it for cash, or trade into a new Toyota at Greenville Toyota.
Hey, we're at Maribella's in Greenville, the new location of Maribella's on Fire Tower Road. If you haven't been to this place yet, let me tell you, you are missing out. I want to introduce my friends from Maribella's. I've got Sal, Massimo, and Pietro here. These guys are awesome. Not only do they make great food, they do a lot of things for the community, which we're going to be talking about. But Sal, let's start with you. Let's talk about the new location of Maribella's on Fire Tower Road. I'm a regular here. I love it. You guys call it Old World Pizza. Tell us what's different about your pizza.
Well, we got two kinds of pizzas. We have the traditional, American style, and then we have the Old World Pizza, which is made with fresh mozzarella. And the way they do it in Italy.
Massimo, when you talk about doing this food right, it's authentic. And when I talk about authentic, you grew up in Italy, so you grew up with this food. You know how to make it.
Yeah, because we grew up in Italy, we know the ingredient, and everything we do from scratch. And the right ingredient it's been hard for us to bring over here. And now finally we can get the right ingredient to make a right pizza.
All right, now I'm going to talk to my friend Pietro here at Maribella's. He's got the Nino's shirt on today. We're going to talk about Nino's, which is another great dining experience, upscale dining experience, on another segment upcoming. But Pietro, let's talk about Maribella's. For people who've never been to Maribella's, what's the experience going to be like when they come here? Not only pizzas, but pastas, salads, sandwiches, you got it all.
Yes, we do. We have new sandwiches that we put in this new location, and we're going to spread it to the other locations.
The guys here at Maribella's have won national pizza competitions, so you know it's good. Thanks to Sal, Massimo, and Pietro. Folks, do yourself a favor. Come to the new Maribella's here on Fire Tower Road in Greenville, or Maribella's on Greenville Boulevard, or Maribella's in Washington on Carolina Avenue. Also, don't forget upscale dining at Nino's on Red Banks Road.
107.9 WNCT welcomes you to Concert on the Common.
I love beach music. I always have and I always will.
The next band to hit the stage at the Greenville Toyota Amphitheater is The Embers, featuring Craig Willard, May 26th.
I remember this past winter. I told myself to settle
Don't miss
down.
Concert on the Common.
Hold back the night.
Get on the move in a pre-owned vehicle from Greenville Toyota. Shop a huge selection of used cars, trucks, SUVs, even luxury vehicles with no charge maintenance. Plus a used vehicle warranty that covers you for 100,000 miles. Get to Greenville Toyota today. Back to news and views. Talk 96.3 and 103.7.
Welcome back in. Lawmakers returned to Raleigh this week for the start of the short session, which began with non-voting sessions, should pick up momentum after Memorial Day. John Bell is the North Carolina House Majority Leader. He represents the North Carolina House District 10, representing parts of Greene, Johnson, and Wayne County. John, welcome back to News and Views.
Hey, it's nice to be with you. Thank you for having me.
Hey, before we get into the short session, any surprises in Tuesday's primary as it relates to the members of the North Carolina House?
We had a couple surprises. We had a long-term member in the Randolph County area who was seeking re-election, got beat by a challenger, And so that was a surprise for us. And then, of course, with the redistricting, we had 2 double bunkings where we had 2 sitting members that were lumped into the same district. And of course, you're going to lose 2 of those members.
Right.
And that was unfortunate. But when you have areas that have population loss, and we have to shift districts around by our state constitution every 10 years, unfortunately, those are the type of things that happen. Had some interesting races across the state. On the other side of the aisle, had a race in Guilford County where a hand-picked opponent was recruited by the Democrat Party, and he was very aggressive towards our member, and he forgot to campaign. And the other lady, who was a challenger, she didn't campaign at all, and somehow she took 70+% of the vote.
How about that? Wow.
So elections are always interesting. This is the time to where we go back in and look at the different elections across the state and what moved the needle, what made one person more likable than the other person, and how those races were played out. So we take time to learn from all those races across the state.
Well, on the federal level, everyone is talking about, and I think they're right, that we're going to see pretty good increases on the federal level in the House, in Congress, and probably in the U.S. Senate as well. Do you think that's going to carry over to the North Carolina House and the North Carolina Senate?
I do. I want to take you back in history a little bit. If you look over the last, let's say the last 20 years here in North Carolina, the best Republicans have performed on a generic ballot. And what I mean by generic ballot is if you take all the names off the ballot and just look at Republican, Democrat, the Republicans, the best we've performed has been a R4, which means the Republican has a 4-point advantage walking in the door.
Right.
We're seeing polling now that shows us at an R7 to an R11 on that generic ballot.
Wow.
And so we don't know what that looks like. President Biden and his administration and the dysfunction of Washington has really got people upset about the direction of our country. When you can't find baby formula on the shelf, when gas is hitting $5 a gallon, when you go to the store and get what's there, not what you have to settle for what's there, not what you need. As Americans, we're not used to this, and we do not like it. And so that national drive, the policies that are at the national level are going to trickle down, and it's playing into our favor politically going into the November election.
Sounds good to me. Hey, let's talk about the short session. Now, correct me, but I believe that the main purpose of the short session is to modify the budget. Is that a correct assessment? And beyond that, is there anything else on the agenda that needs to be taken care of?
You're correct. We have a biennium budget, and so last year you saw us put together a spending plan for the next 2 years, and we come back in the short session, which I hope this year is short. After coming off the longest long session in state history, we all hope it's short. But it's to make tweaks to the spending plan. We have we're very blessed to have another surplus again this year, and unfortunately we're dealing with inflation. So a lot of the projects that we have funded in the long session budget, we're going to have to add additional funding to that to make up for the increase on construction costs and labor costs and inflation that's happening across our state. So that's going to be the main focus of the short session. There will be other bills that pop up. We have a bill that you're going to see run next week. It deals with the hemp industry. We had a hemp pilot program that expired January the 1st, 2020, and then 6 months after that, any carve-outs, any special carve-outs will expire on July 1st. And so if we don't act, all your CBD products, all your hemp products here in the state of North Carolina will actually be illegal. And so we don't want to see that happen because we have a growing industry there. So we'll codify state and federal law. That should be a pretty easy fix, and then we'll start the process of. You'll see a lot of local bills come through. Hopefully there'll be no major legislation because the goal will be to get out pretty quick.
We're talking to John Bell, North Carolina's House Majority Leader. You talked about the surplus. It was some $6.2 billion. Is that a record high for the surplus?
It's not a record high. We've been very blessed to have a surplus as we moved along. The tax reforms that we've put in place for the last 10 years are working, and so we want to continue driving that personal income tax down. That corporate tax is going to be at zero We've built in trigger mechanisms, so we do this in a very strategic way. So we don't overspend or put ourselves in a bind for future budgets. But we've been very blessed that our tax reform is working, and we hope it continues to work. And it should. North Carolina's a growing state. We've got very low taxes, and it just goes back to the old saying that if you tax people less, they have more money in their pocket, they'll spend more money.
Isn't it interesting how lowering taxes has increased the surplus, totally opposite of what the Democrats told us?
Absolutely, and also not just increasing the surplus, but along with that, we were able to have regulatory reforms here in our state. When Tom Tillis was Speaker of the House, he actually implemented the first regulatory reform committee, and I believe every session since then, with the exception of one, we've had a regulatory reform bill, which has reduced regulatory burdens, some really over-the-top regulatory burdens for business and industry and families across the state. And so we've done the regulatory reform, the tax reform, and the result of that is we have a booming economy here in North Carolina. You've got business announcements every day. We have major manufacturers, major job announcements all throughout our state, and people want to be here. So we're one of the fastest growing states in the country and one of the best places to do business in the country.
I saw the letter, the Carolina Journal was reporting on the letter that Grover Norquist, who's president of the American Tax Reform Organization, sent to the legislature, commending, giving you all kudos in the job you're doing. But one of the things that he mentioned out of that $6.2 billion is, hey, why don't you speed up the tax decreases that you have scheduled? I think by 2027, the income tax rate for individuals would hit 3.99. He's saying, why don't you speed that up, get it here a little quicker than 2027? Is that on the table? Are you considering that?
That's going to be part of the discussion. We've taken a strategic approach to tax reform, and so the issue we're running into now is, one, even though we have a surplus, we have to account for the recurring dollars, and what I mean by that is that once you do investments in and with state employee raises, et cetera, you have to account for that for the life of that employee. So we want to make sure that we're being very responsible on our recurring expenses, which will add to the budget from there on out. Also, we're dealing with inflation, and so a lot of our surplus is actually going to go to these projects that you look at the Brody School of Medicine there in Greenville. That was a $200 million project, and construction costs have increased by 25% on that project alone.
Yeah.
So we want to be able to keep our commitment to those type of projects, and so we want to be sure that we're spending appropriately.
Let me ask you, everyone's talking about the Supreme Court leaking that opinion from Alito concerning the Roe v. Wade decision, and it looks like there's a really good possibility that Roe v. Wade could be overturned. Will you all be considering any kind of legislation? My understanding is if it is overturned, we will go back to what was on the books in 1973 when Roe v. Wade became law. Are you all considering any kind of new legislation?
So, unfortunately, any type of pro-life legislation that we put forward, and frankly, any pro-life legislation that we have put forward has been vetoed by Governor Cooper. He is not going to support any of that. We do not have the votes in the House nor the Senate to override a veto at this time, because we would have to have 3 Democrats in the House and 2 Democrats in the Senate to join us on an override, and so that makes it a challenge to get something done. But that is why these elections coming up are extremely important. We want to be sure that we get the supermajority in place in the House and the Senate. That way we can push forward on a pro-life conservative agenda and make sure it becomes law here in the state of North Carolina.
And the way you said that, it sounds like you feel like there is a real possibility that the Republicans could get a supermajority.
We do. When you look at the polling that we're seeing across not just our state but across the nation, and the polling that the president has overall, how low he's polling in favorability, that gives us an opportunity to go after seats that we probably wouldn't have been able to go after before. And we've recruited some outstanding candidates across the state, We've got people that have chosen to say, hey, look, I'm going to put my business and my career and my family on hold right now. It's an opportunity to serve my community, and they have really stepped up. And so we've got outstanding candidates running. We feel confident that we will get right close to the supermajority or over the supermajority, and we think November is going to be an outstanding time for conservatives across the state.
Again, we're talking to John Bell, North Carolina's House Majority Leader. Another issue, and this is one that has bipartisan support. In fact, it might have more support on the Democratic side than it has on the Republican side, and that's sports wagering. Are you going to deal with that this short session?
I'll leave as soon as I hang up with you. I leave for a meeting to go talk about that very subject. It is a subject that has been brought up. The bill passed the Senate. It has passed the committee in the House, and so we will be taking up that bill as we move along in session. And so we're not at the point to where we're counting votes yet, but it is there's some favorability for it. There's some opposition against it, and there's folks in the middle that are learning more about it. So that's an issue that you'll see play out here in the short session.
So the short session you think will be over, and I know things are in flux because obviously the long session was really long, and you probably feel like you just got out of the long session. How long do you think the short session is going to go?
Well, I feel like we never left, but the great thing. Unfortunately, it was a very long session, but the great thing is we came out with a strong bipartisan budget that was really good for the citizens of this state, and so I'm very proud of that. And it's our hope that by 4th of July, we'll be out of Raleigh and back home in our districts and serving our communities.
Sounds good. John, thanks for all you do. Thanks for checking in with us. Let's stay in touch, especially as the short session comes to some decision-making. Keep us informed. Do appreciate it.
Absolutely, and thank you. And we're always willing to talk and let your listeners know what's going on in Raleigh.
Sounds great. John Bell, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Stay with us. I'll be right back.
Acre Station Meat Farm, along with Lane Angus Beef, bring you Farm to Fork Beef.
Stock your freezers now with affordable beef boxes, just in time for the grilling season.
Farm to Fork Beef brings quality local beef to your family. From your traditional butcher shop, Acre Station Meat Farm. Come on down to Acre Station Meat Farm and find out why we're #1 in fresh cuts and friendly service.
Acre Station Meat Farm, Highway 32 North, Pinetown.
You know that moment when you realize your hair color is way past its prime, or that you need a change and you hope it comes in the form of perfectly sun-kissed highlights? And at Fantastic Sam's, we offer real salon services at real people prices. Our color specialists can do it all. They make grays disappear, layer in subtle highlights, or help you finally find that perfect shade of red. All for real reasonable prices.
It's only 8 a.m. and it's going to be another hot one. Today's high is 85 degrees with lows ranging in the upper 50s. Tomorrow's more of the same, plus some light wind coming in from the northeast. Coming up at 8:30, Paul's got an exclusive.
Babe, it's 8 a.m.
Fried chicken, better with Pepsi.
The best burgers around. Everyone loves a thick, juicy, and fresh burger. Tiebreakers in Greenville, plus the all-new Tiebreakers in Winterville. Do real burgers better than anybody. So don't just go to any burger-themed restaurant chain. It's time to break the chain and eat local. Tiebreakers, real burgers at its best.
Everybody loves burgers.
Air Service is back at Pitt Greenville Airport, offering safe, clean facilities and flights from American Airlines. That means the short commute, quicker lines, and better prices that get you where you're going fast and easy. See it for yourself. There's great things inside at Pitt Greenville Airport.
This is your Drive at 5 and ENC with Tom Lamprecht. Welcome back to News and Views on Talk 96.3 and 103.7.
Welcome back in. Taking a quick look at your weather forecast for this weekend. Tonight, clear skies. They might have a few clouds passing by. A low of 73. Hot is the key word over the weekend. Tomorrow, partly cloudy, high around 95. Tomorrow night, a chance of a stray thunderstorm, low around 71. Sunday, partly cloudy. Again, a chance of a stray thunderstorm, a high of a 91, so 4 degrees cooler. I mean, 95 versus 91, does it really make any difference? The next Monday, it cools down back into the 80s and 60% chance of rain on Monday. So get out and enjoy the sunshine and just drink plenty of water when you're outside, or Gatorade, something that is healthy for you as you get out in the sunshine. So remember what Uncle Joe, Cousin Eddie, Joe Biden said about Hunter back in the 2020 campaign. In fact, he said this in the last debate he had with Donald Trump.
My son has not made money in terms of this thing about, what are you talking about, China?
Yeah. What are you talking about? Like I have no idea what you're talking about.
What happened?
NBC News. Not exactly a conservative outlet. NBC News accidentally tripped and fell into some truth this week. That happens once in a while. According to NBC News, which did not hold back in its description of Hunter Biden's business partners, quote, this is from the NBC News, quote, from 2013 through 2018, Hunter Biden and his company brought in about $11 million via his roles as an attorney and a board member with a Ukrainian firm accused of bribery, and his work with a Chinese businessman now accused of fraud. That time frame notably includes years in which Cousin Eddie was vice president. Specifically, as new NBC News review confirmed, quote, Biden made, speaking of Hunter, Biden made $5.8 million, more than half of his total earnings from 2013 to 2018, from 2 deals with Chinese business interest. More than $5 million, for the record, is a far cry from President Biden's 2020 debate that he hasn't made any money from China. Yeah. You know, that kind of blanket denial, this dogmatic denial, rarely ends well, especially when the person issuing it is someone like Joe Biden, who really cannot string 2 sentences together. It's only a matter of time. You know, when after a while, you ever notice people, as they lose their cognitive ability, they just blurt out things that sometimes are true. And you know, Joe's already lost his filter, and his filter is continuing to disintegrate week after week, month after month. When will Joe accidentally speak the truth? And I mean this sincerely. I think it will happen. As NBC News points out, stating the obvious, quote, they said, which don't show what he did to earn the millions from his Chinese partners. That we don't know. There's nothing in there that proves he actually earned these millions. It raises questions about national security, business ethics, and potential legal exposure. The other thing that's interesting about this is how quickly Hunter Biden went through the money. It's estimated that he was spending how do you spend this much money? $200,000 per month. I mean, those are some high-priced hookers and some really good cocaine, apparently. $200,000 per month from October 2017 through February 2018. Yeah. Frank Figliuzzi, who is the former FBI Assistant Director for Counterintelligence, he said, quote, said there is a national security risk when foreign powers like China see an opportunity to get close to someone like Biden, speaking of Joe. It's all about access and influence, and if you can compromise someone with both access and influence, that's even better, he said. Better still if that target is already compromised himself. You know, the Biden crime family, like the Clinton crime family, they think they're immune. They think they can get away with anything because they've gotten away with stuff so long. And, that usually happens to the bad guys, the crooks. They become overconfident. They become cocky. They think, I've gotten away with everything so far. This will continue to happen. The other thing that's interesting about this is the fact that NBC is reporting on this. More and more, it's either one of two things. It is so obvious that this story is going to break that there are people within NBC that says, we got to cover it. We will lose all credibility if we don't. That's one possibility. The other possibility is Joe is useless and he is worthless. I mean, they're reading the same poll numbers the rest of us are reading. When they're depending upon the Hispanic vote to undergird their terrible poll numbers. And then, as I mentioned yesterday, according to a new poll from Quinnipiac, the president's approval rating among Hispanics has plummeted to 26%. He is less popular with Hispanics than any other group, including all ages and all demographics and all genders. So it does NBC look at that and say, well, the guy's worthless. He's killing us. He's not, we're propping him up and he's pulling us down. I mean, I don't think NBC has suddenly decided, hey, you know what, conservatism, works and liberalism doesn't. They haven't said that. They're strictly looking at the bottom line and saying Joe is worthless. To make matters worse, the Biden administration has now, this really makes matters worse with the Hispanic vote. The Biden administration has rolled back sanctions on Cuba and Venezuela. And that's going to make matters worse with Hispanics. And remember, there are a lot of Hispanics in this country that are fleeing Cuba, that are fleeing Venezuela, coming to the United States because they hate the communism. They hate the despots in charge. They hate the dictatorships. Maduro, Chavez, Castro brothers, they've lived under that. They want to flee from that. They're coming to the United States, and now we have the Biden administration that says, hey, you know what? These guys aren't bad. Let's go ahead and cozy up to them. So what does Joe do? He's basically dropped all the sanctions that Trump put in place. What the Democrats don't realize is these kind of policy decisions are going to hurt them with voters, Hispanic voters, but beyond Hispanic voters. And, these libs, these progressives, these people in the Biden administration, and for that matter, under Pelosi and Chuckles the Clown Schumer, they are either really ignorant on how such decisions will basically ruin their political futures. That's one possibility. Or they, frankly, just don't care. They don't give one iota, and they're going scorched earth. They're saying, well, we're going out, so we might as well go out, with a bang. We'll take as much down with us. We hate this country. We'll take as much down with us as we possibly can. The third possibility, though, and I'm dead serious when I say this, and it might go back to what we opened up with. Now the Biden administration spent $119 million on the monkeypox vaccination. Will that be the introduction to shutting down the elections this November? And I mean, the third possibility I'm talking about is they plan to steal another election. I'm dead serious. Benvenuto President Abraham Enriquez, who heads the national nonprofit that promotes conservative policies in the Hispanic community, said in a statement to Town Hall that the Biden administration's new Cuba and Venezuela policies are terribly misguided. They will, quote, likely worsen the White House's challenges with Hispanic communities across the country. Quote, by and large, Hispanic Americans want the United States to be tough on the brutal Castro and Maduro regimes, not to reward them with unilateral concessions. Well, guess what else he's doing? While the Interior Department came out with that memo just yesterday saying, you know what, no more new leases, no more new gas drilling leases. oil drilling leases, shutting those down. And the Secretary of the Interior just looked at the camera with her eyes wide like, ooh, we've been caught by none other than Joe Manchin. But while they're doing that to the United States, basically, I'm sorry my bluntness, screwing the American citizen, the American taxpayer, guess what they're doing down in Venezuela? In Venezuela, they're saying, you know what, maybe we should reopen talks. Maybe we should reopen talks. We're going to allow Chevron to go in and start talking to the Venezuela government, Maduro and his henchmen. And maybe they can, maybe we ought to get our fuel from them. Maybe we ought to get our oil from them. So while America could be energy independent, and we should be, we were. Under Donald Trump 2 years ago, we were. Instead, now what are we going to do? We're going to give our money to Venezuela, a brutal dictator. Venezuela, you can have the profits. Oh, that'll take care of our fossil fuels. Yeah, that's a good idea. Shame. I mean, these liberals in the Biden administration, again, I know Joe is just, he's just shuffling through the White House. He doesn't know what's going on. But the puppet master, as Elon Musk said earlier in the week, the person that controls the teleprompter is the one who's really the president. The puppet master. These people hate the United States of America. I mean, don't get up there and give us this God bless America and we love our troops and all this other. You don't believe that for a second. It is the only reason you utter those words. It's a means to an end to get you reelected, and that's it. And once you get reelected, once you're in the House, once you're in the Senate, once you're in the White House, what are you going to do? Your goal, pretty obviously, is to destroy the United States of America and turn us into another Cuba, another Venezuela. Man, it's important we get out and put conservatives in. I mean true conservatives in. Hey, we got to take another time out. Stay with us. More news and views for a Friday coming right up.
We're on location today at Fabric and Home Furnishings, Arlington Village on Arlington Boulevard here in Greenville. One of my favorite places in town, one of my favorite people in town. My buddy Lisa Pendry is here. And Lisa, when I walked in this morning, the place always looks great, but there's something new here. You got a brand new room. Tell us what's going on.
We do, Henry. We are opening a Norwalk gallery, and we are so excited because this company is so custom. Been in business since 1902, built in Norwalk, Ohio. Tons of wood colors to choose from, over 900 fabric choices, and I've got a design team that can make it fabulous and help you find unique styles.
So when you say custom, a custom furniture line, what does that mean exactly?
You can literally choose the cushion, the fabric. You can even choose the thread color with this company. So wood choices, amazing fabrics, put 3 fabrics on 1 sofa, as much fun as you want to have.
And that's what people want these days. They want it to be exactly the way they want it, so you can get that with Norwalk.
You can.
All right, what else is new? You've always got some other interesting things going on here.
Well, we have some new fabrics that have arrived, but I've also, in this new showroom, I've added a friend of mine that's opened a company in Hickory, North Carolina called Hickory Luxe. Done business with him for a long time, but we're adding to that because he can deliver in 6 to 8 weeks instead of 8 months like some of these companies are, doing right now.
And as we always say, Fabric and Home Furnishings is a furniture store and so much more. And the so much more is you guys offer design services. I know you're a designer yourself. You have a design team here, so you can offer that full service for people.
I do. I've got the best design team ever. We do commercial design and residential. And there's a lot of decisions that go into what you want your home to be. So we send somebody right out to the house for a flat one-time fee, not an hourly fee. And we analyze it, make a friend, and make it easy and painless and fabulous for people.
Fabric and Home Furnishings here in Arlington Village. My friend Lisa Pendry. It's a furniture store and so much more. Come see them.
Acre Station Meat Farm, along with Lane Angus Beef, bring you farm to fork beef.
Stock your freezers now with affordable beef boxes just in time for the grilling season.
Farm to fork beef brings quality local beef to your family. From your traditional butcher shop, Acre Station Meat Farm. Come on down to Acre Station Meat Farm and find out why we're #1 in fresh cuts and friendly service.
Acre Station Meat Farm, Highway 32 North, Pinetown.
empty lots at car dealers everywhere. Except here. The selection you want is at Greenville Nissan. And during the Nissan Thrill of the Drive sales event, buy a new Nissan with financing as low as 0.9%. The versatile Nissan Rogue, the all-new Pathfinder, or gas-saving cars like Nissan Sentra and Altima. And yes, we have trucks. Buy the new Nissan Titan with 0.9% financing, or the all-new Frontier for $99 a month. Hurry to Greenville Nissan, where we drive to serve.
This is your Drive at 5 and ENC with Tom Lamprecht. Welcome back to News and Views on Talk 96.3 and 103.7.
When we were talking to John Bell a few minutes ago, we were talking about the fact that will there be new pro-life legislation, and he very aptly pointed out that, we'd like to put together some pro-life legislation now that it looks like Roe v. Wade will be no longer the law of the land. But we've got Roy Cooper, who is a lib, who would turn around and veto it. That's why we need a supermajority, which we hopefully will get this November. In Oklahoma, that is not the case. They have a conservative governor. They have a conservative legislature. And they have passed basically a law that eliminates abortion in the state of Oklahoma. Now, there are a couple of exceptions for rape, life of the mother, those kind of things. But we're not talking about, okay, if you got a hangnail and your health is in danger, you can have an abortion. No, I mean, these are legitimate concerns. But the White House yesterday turned around and condemned the new abortion bill passed in Oklahoma, calling the bill, quote, extreme, quote, absurd, and, quote, ultra MAGA. That's the new term that the libs want to use that Donald Trump has gleefully embraced. The bill, HB 4327, would ban all abortions after the moment of conception, except in the cases of rape, incest, or to save the life of the mother. The bill bans any procedures that, quote, cause the death of an unborn child, which defines as a human fetus or embryo in any stage of gestation from fertilization until birth. Republican Kevin Stitt has indicated he will sign the bill, which will go into effect immediately. And what did the White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre condemn the bill in a statement last night? Quote, the president believes that women have a fundamental right to make their own reproductive health choices, Jean-Pierre noted, adding that the Supreme Court decision of Roe v. Wade has been the law of the land for almost 50 years and, quote, basic fairness and the stability of the law demand that it not be overturned. So Jean-Pierre, would you have said that about Dred Scott? I mean, that was the law of the land. It was the stability of the law at the time that said, blacks have no right to freedom. If they're a slave, then they will remain a slave. And you cannot run off and get your freedom by going to a different part of the country. You will be captured and you will be taken back. So Dred Scott, that was stability, Jean-Pierre. Or how about for 58 years, Presley versus Ferguson was the law of the land. What was that about? That was for 58 years. Now, Roe v. Wade's only been around for 50 years. Not even 50, 49 if it's overturned this year. Presley versus Ferguson said that racially segregated public facilities were legal as long as the facilities for blacks and whites were equal. That was on the books for 58 years. There's some stability. So should we have kept that on the books there, Jean-Pierre? Today's action by the Oklahoma legislature is the most extreme effort to undo these fundamental rights we have seen to date, she said. In addition, it adopts Texas's absurd plan to allow private citizens to sue their neighbors for providing reproductive health care and helping women to exercise their constitutional rights. Well, you guys want to have basically secret police to figure out what is right and what is not right, and let's report on people that aren't doing and saying the right things with your ministry of truth. She went on to say, this is a part of a growing effort by ultra-MAGA officials across the country to roll back the freedoms we should not take for granted in this country. So, Jean-Pierre, taking your logic, slave owners should have the freedom to own slaves, right? It was the law of the land. It was the stability of the law at the time. And it was their freedoms to do that. Segregationists should have the right to white-only schools or black-only schools, right? I mean, and now the death culture ought to have the right to kill babies in the womb. Unbelievable. Again, the polls that they say, the vast number of Americans want abortion to continue. The polls indicate, well, two things. Once, when the people learn the truth of Roe v. Wade, that it doesn't totally overturn abortions, it merely sends the decision back to the states, back to the people. Suddenly people say, well, that doesn't sound bad. But secondly, 71% of Americans, 77% of Americans think that there should be some restrictions on abortion. It shouldn't be anytime, anywhere, for any reason. Hey, listen, we got to run. Call it quits for today, but we'll be back on Monday. Have a great weekend. Our thanks to John Bell, and we'll see you after the weekend on the first part of the week on News and Views. See you then. Bye-bye, everybody.
All right, all right, all right.
What do you see when you imagine life on the coast? Is it salty or sweet? Is it refined or a bit wild? Perhaps it's the perfect combination of everything you ever dreamed of. This is the very best of living on the coast. Bow Coast.
Well, folks, it's only 8 a.m. and it's going to be another hot one. Today's high is 85 degrees with lows ranging in the upper 50s. Tomorrow's more of the same, plus some light wind coming in from the northeast. Coming up at 8:30, Paul's got an exclusive
Babe,
heartwarming
it's
story.
8 a.m.
Fried chicken, better with Pepsi.
And we're on location at one of my favorite places in the whole planet because this is some of the best food you're ever going to eat in your life. We are at Nino's on Red Banks Road in Greenville. It's one of my hangouts. It's one of the places that I love. I got my friend Pietro Pasalacqua. How'd I do?
You did great.
Let's talk about the food. What makes this place? I know it's special Italian from authentic Italians, but tell us why it's so special.
Because everything we do, it's really what we came up on the menu from what we did at home, from my grandparents, my parents. So it's exactly what we eat at home, and that's the way we cook. That's why.